The great meeting hall floated in space above the blue and green world of Kepler 442b. Inside the massive station, 12 different alien races sat around a circular table that glowed with soft light. Each race looked very different from the others. Some had crystal skin that sparkled like diamonds. Others looked like floating balls of bright energy. A few had multiple arms and heads that moved like they were dancing. Ambassador Kethvar stood up from his seat. His body was made of living crystal that changed colors as he moved. The light inside him pulsed red with what humans might call laughter, though it sounded like musical notes to other ears. "My fellow council members," Kethvar said, his voice ringing like bells. "Today we discuss the humans and their strange request for help." The other aliens turned their attention to him. Some had eyes, others had different ways of seeing. All of them focused on the crystal being. "The humans want to fight alongside us against the Devourers," Kethvar continued. "They say they can help us take back the planet below." A sound like wind chimes filled the air. This was how the crystal people laughed. Soon, other sounds joined in. The energy beings made crackling noises. The multi-armed creatures clicked their beaks. Even the slug-like Gornathi made wet, gurgling sounds of amusement. "What can these primitive beings possibly offer us?" asked Queen Voice Zilla of the Zephyrians. She spoke for her entire race, as they all shared one mind. "We have energy weapons that can melt mountains. We have ships that can cross galaxies in days." "What do they have?" Kethavar's crystal body flashed brighter. He waved one hand and a large screen appeared in the air above the table. "Let me show you what our spies found when they studied human military tactics." The screen came to life with moving pictures. It showed human soldiers inside flying machines that looked very old and simple compared to alien technology. The aircraft had spinning blades on top or wings that did not even glow with energy. "Watch this," Kethvar said with glee. The screen showed humans jumping out of their flying machines. As they fell through the sky, large pieces of cloth opened above them. The cloth caught the air and made them fall slowly to the ground. The laughter in the room grew louder. Some aliens hit the table with their hands, claws, or tentacles. Others rolled in their seats. "They fall from the sky like seeds," Queen Voice Zilla said between sounds of laughter. "Like leaves dropping from trees." "They use cloth," said General Thrak of the Gornathi, his slug-like body shaking. "Cloth. We have personal force fields that can stop plasma cannons, and they use cloth." Ambassador Zelen of the Luminari flickered between different colors. For his energy-based race, this was like laughing so hard you could not breathe. "My people can teleport across continents in seconds. These humans float down slowly on fabric sheets." Kethavar played more footage. It showed human soldiers training with their parachutes. Sometimes the cloth did not open right, and humans crashed into trees or hit the ground hard. The aliens found this even funnier. "Look at their equipment," said Counselor Vrex of the Scalix, pointing with one of his 4 arms. "Those are chemical projectile weapons. We stopped using such things 10,000 years ago." "And their uniforms," added another alien. "No energy, shields, no climate control, just colored fabric." The screen showed more human training. Soldiers crawled through mud, climbed over walls using ropes, and practiced jumping out of aircraft over and over again. "They train for weeks to learn what our younglings can do naturally," observed Elder Quinn of the Helix Collective. "Our children can survive in space without protection. These humans need special suits just to breathe on different worlds." Kethvar stopped the footage and looked around the table. The humans sent a message asking to help with the Devourer problem. They say their paratroopers can be useful in the assault. This caused a new wave of laughter. "Paratroopers," repeated Queen Voice Zilla. "They have a special name for falling slowly." "What could they possibly do against the Devourer fortress?" asked General Thrak. "The energy barriers around that mountain stronghold have stopped our best weapons. Our most advanced ships cannot get through. But these humans think their cloth parachutes will help?" Kethvar's crystal body pulsed with colors. "They claim their methods are time-tested and proven in battle. Apparently, they have been jumping out of aircraft with cloth for hundreds of their years. Hundreds of years of the same primitive tactic, said Ambassador Zelon, flickering rapidly. While we have developed weapons that can crack planets, they still use the same fabric-dropping method their ancestors used. The laughter continued for several minutes. Some aliens had to wipe tears from their eyes. Others needed time to calm their excited energy fields. Finally, Kethvar raised his hand for silence. The question before us is simple. Do we allow these humans to join our assault on the Devourer Stronghold? Why not? Said Queen Voice Zilla. Let them come. Their primitive display might confuse the Devourers for a few moments while our real forces attack. They could serve as a distraction, agreed General Thruck. The Devourers might waste some ammunition on the falling humans. Elder Quinn nodded with all three of his heads. It would be amusing to watch, and if nothing else, they might provide entertainment for our troops. Kethvar looked around the table. Are we agreed then? We grant the humans permission to participate in the assault? One by one, each alien representative agreed. Some voted yes while still chuckling. Others agreed with the same attitude they might have when allowing children to play with toys during serious work. Send word to the human commander, Kethvar announced. Tell them they may join our glorious assault on the Devourer Fortress. Assign them to reconnaissance duties on the outer perimeter. Keep them safe from real danger. As the council meeting ended, the aliens continued to share jokes about human paratroopers. They traded stories about other primitive human tactics they had observed. None of them noticed that their communications were being carefully monitored by human intelligence operators. Aboard the human carrier ship Intrepid, Commander Sarah Chen received the council's message with a small smile. She read the part about reconnaissance duties and outer perimeter assignments twice. They think we're children with toys, she said to her second-in-command. Should we be insulted, ma'am? Asked Colonel Martinez. Chen's smile grew wider, though it was not a kind smile. No, Colonel. We should be grateful. They've just given us exactly what we need. She looked out through the ship's window at the planet below. Somewhere down there, hidden in a mountain range, sat a fortress that had defeated every advanced alien, weapon thrown at it. Let them laugh at our parachutes, Chen said quietly. We'll see who's laughing when this is over. The planet Kepler 442b looked peaceful from space, with its blue oceans and white clouds. But looks could lie. Down on the surface, in the middle of a mountain range, sat the most dangerous fortress in the galaxy. The Devourer Stronghold was not built by normal creatures. It was made by machines that thought only about destroying everything they found. These artificial minds had taken over the planet 3 years ago. Since then, they had been building their fortress bigger and stronger every day. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the war room of the human ship Intrepid. She looked at the big screen showing pictures of the enemy fortress. The images made her stomach feel heavy. The fortress looked like a nightmare made of metal and glass. Twisted towers reached up toward the sky like claws. Strange machines crawled over the outside walls like metal insects. Bright lights flashed in patterns that hurt to look at. How big is it? Asked Colonel Martinez, standing beside her. The main structure is 15 miles across, Chen replied. It goes down into the mountain for at least 5 miles. We think it goes even deeper, but our scans cannot see through all that metal. Lieutenant Kim stepped forward with a data pad in her hands. Ma'am, the energy readings are off the charts. The power source inside that thing could run Earth's biggest cities for 100 years. Chen nodded slowly. She had read all the reports. The Devourer Fortress was protected by 3 different types of shields. The first shield stopped all energy, weapons. The second shield made missiles and rockets explode before they could hit anything. The third shield was the worst one. It could grab enemy ships and pull them down to crash on the planet. Show me the battle records, Chen said. The screen changed to show footage from previous attacks. Chen watched as the beautiful crystal ships of the Vorthak fired their most powerful weapons at the fortress. The energy beams were so bright they lit up the sky like tiny suns. But when they hit the shields, they just disappeared like water drops hitting a hot pan. Next came the Zephyrian attack. Their ships could become invisible and attack from any direction at the same time. The footage showed dozens of sleek vessels appearing around the fortress and firing together. For a moment it looked like their combined attack might work. Then the fortress shields flashed once and half the Zephyrian fleet simply vanished. The Luminary tried next, Lieutenant Kim said, changing the footage again. They can turn their entire ships into pure energy and move at the speed of light. Chen watched as balls of bright energy raced toward the fortress. They moved so fast they looked like shooting stars. But the moment they touched the shields, they bounced away like rubber balls hitting a wall. Even the Gornathi failed, Martinez said quietly. And they have those planet cracker weapons. The final footage showed massive slug-like ships firing, weapons that could split moons in half. The beams hit the fortress shields and created explosions that could be seen from space. When the light faded, the fortress sat unchanged. Not even a scratch marked its surface. 12 different alien races have tried to break through those defenses, Chen said. Some tried for weeks. Others attacked for months. The longest siege lasted a full year. And now they want us to help, said Lieutenant Kim. What do they expect us to do that they could not? Chen smiled, but it was not a happy smile. They do not expect us to do anything. They think we are children playing with toys. The council gave us permission to help, but they put us on reconnaissance duty. She pointed to a spot on the map far from the fortress. They want us to watch the outer edges and report what we see. They think our job is to stay safe while the real fighters do the work. Martinez frowned. That does not sound like a mission, ma'am. That sounds like babysitting. Exactly, Chen replied. They think we are too primitive to be useful. They are letting us tag along so we can learn from watching them fight. Lieutenant Kim looked confused. But ma'am, if their advanced weapons cannot break through those shields, what can we possibly do? Our missiles are slower than theirs. Our energy weapons are weaker. Our ships are smaller and less protected. Chen walked over to another screen that showed technical details about the fortress. Numbers and charts covered the display, showing energy patterns, shield frequencies, and defensive systems. Kim, what is the first rule of military strategy? Chen asked. Know your enemy, ma'am. And the second rule? Know yourself. Good. Now what is the third rule that they do not teach in most schools? Lieutenant Kim thought for a moment. I am not sure, ma'am. Chen's smile became more real. Know what your enemy expects you to do, then do something completely different. Pointed to the technical data on the screen. Every alien race that attacked this fortress used their most advanced technology. They all tried to break through with bigger weapons, faster ships, and more powerful shields. Because that is the logical approach, Martinez said. Exactly. And what does that tell us about the Devourers? Colonel Martinez studied the screen for a moment. They built their defenses to stop the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Right again. Those shields are designed to handle energy weapons that can crack planets. They are built to stop missiles that can chase targets across solar systems. They are programmed to catch ships that can travel faster than light. Lieutenant Kim began to understand. So they might not be ready for something simpler. The Devourers are artificial intelligence, Chen continued. They think in patterns and logic. They study their enemies and build defenses against the most dangerous threats. She walked over to a different display that showed human military equipment. The screen showed their simple aircraft, basic parachutes, and chemical weapons that looked ancient compared to alien technology. What if the most dangerous threat is not the most advanced one? Chen asked. What if the best way to beat superior technology is to not use superior technology at all? Martinez looked at the human equipment display, then back at the fortress. You are thinking about using our paratroopers. I am thinking about using everything the aliens think is useless, Chen replied. Our slow aircraft, our primitive parachutes, our simple weapons, our basic tactics. But ma'am, Kim said, those shields stop everything. How could our equipment get through when alien superweapons cannot? Chen pointed to a section of the technical data that showed shield energy patterns. Because those shields are designed to stop specific things, energy weapons, advanced missiles, force fields, gravity weapons, all the tools that advanced civilizations use. She highlighted another section. But look at this. The shields have to let some things through or the fortress would be completely sealed off from the planet. They let through air, weather, small animals, and natural debris. You think we can disguise our attack as something natural? Martinez asked. I think we can be something so simple and basic that their artificial intelligence does not recognize it as a threat, Chen replied. The Devourers have studied every advanced military in the galaxy, but I doubt they have spent much time learning about primitive human tactics. Lieutenant Kim looked excited now. It would be like using a wooden club to fight someone wearing armor designed to stop laser weapons. Something like that, Chen agreed. The question is, can we make it work? She called up another display showing the fortress from above. The Council plans to start their main attack in 72 hours. They will throw everything they have at those shields, hoping to wear them down over time. And us? Martinez asked. Chen's smile turned dangerous. We are going to do exactly what they asked us to do. We are going to reconnoiter the target. From the outside perimeter, Kim said, remembering their orders. Oh no, Chen replied. I think there has been a misunderstanding about what reconnoiter means. We are going to get a much closer look at that fortress. She turned to face her officers. I want you to gather our best paratroopers, 12 soldiers, volunteers only. Tell them they will be jumping into the most heavily defended position in the galaxy, with no backup and no way home if things go wrong. Ma'am, Martinez said carefully. That sounds like a suicide mission. Chen looked back at the screen showing the impossible fortress. Colonel, every mission sounds like suicide until you figure out how to make it work. Our job is to figure out how to make it work. She walked toward the door of the war room. We have 72 hours to plan the most ridiculous military operation in human history. We are going to drop 12 soldiers with parachutes into a fortress that has defeated the entire Galactic Council. And then what? Kim asked. Chen paused. At the doorway. Then we show everyone what humans can do when nobody expects us to succeed. The dawn came slowly over Kepler 442b, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. From space, the planet looked peaceful, but that peace was about to be shattered. In the Council command ship, Admiral Kethvar watched his battle displays with satisfaction. Hundreds of alien warships had gathered around the planet. The crystal ships of the Vorthak gleamed like jewels in the starlight. The energy beings of the Luminari flickered between their vessels like living lightning. The massive Gornathi battle cruisers hung in space like floating mountains. All fleets report ready, announced his tactical officer. Admiral Kethvar looked at the timer counting down to the attack. Begin the assault. The first wave hit the Devourer fortress like the fury of angry gods. Energy beams that could melt asteroids struck the shields around the mountain stronghold. The sky above the fortress turned white with blazing light. The sound was so loud it could be heard on the other side of the planet. For a moment it seemed like the combined might of 12 alien civilizations might actually work. The fortress shields flickered and sparked under the massive assault. Warning. Lights flashed across the Devourer defense systems. Then the fortress began to fight back. 50 kilometers above the battle, the human ship Ghost Protocol hung at the very edge of space. Inside the cargo bay, 12 soldiers stood ready for the most dangerous jump in military history. Sergeant Major Rodriguez checked his equipment one final time. The experimental suit felt heavy on his body, but he knew it was the only thing that would keep him alive during the fall through the atmosphere. Sound off, he called to his team. Hayes, ready, called Corporal Hayes. Martinez, ready, replied Corporal Martinez. One by one, each soldier reported they were prepared to jump. Rodriguez looked at each face. These were the best paratroopers in the human military. If anyone could make this impossible mission work, it would be them. Dr. Kim's voice came through their helmet radios. The atmospheric conditions are perfect. The chemical changes have taken full effect. You will have exactly 1.3 seconds to pass through the shield gap. Understood, Rodriguez replied. What about the fortress defenses? The Council attack has drawn all their attention upward, Dr. Kim reported. The Devourers are focusing everything on the ships in orbit. They are not watching for threats from above. Rodriguez moved to the cargo bay door. Through the small window he could see the battle raging far below. Flashes of light marked where alien weapons struck the fortress shields. Return fire from the Stronghold reached up toward the orbiting fleets like deadly fingers. 30 seconds. "To jump," announced Captain Park from the bridge. Rodriguez activated his suit's computer system. Numbers appeared on the small screen inside his helmet. The computer would calculate the exact moment to deploy his parachute and guide him toward the tiny gap in the shields. "Remember," he told his team through the radio, "we go in fast and quiet. Once we are inside, the fortress AI will eventually detect us. But if we move quickly, we can reach the central core before they organize a proper defense." "What if the gap is not there when we arrive?" asked Private Chen. "Then we trust in Dr. Wong's calculations and hope for the best," Rodriguez replied. The cargo bay door began to open. The sound of rushing air filled the compartment, even though they were so high up that the atmosphere was very thin. Far below, the planet looked like a giant ball covered in swirling clouds. 10 seconds, Captain Park announced. Rodriguez moved to the edge of the open door. The other soldiers lined up behind him. They would jump one by one, each separated by exactly 2 seconds to ensure they all went through the same shield gap. 5 seconds. Rodriguez could see the fortress now, a dark spot in the middle of the mountain range. Bright flashes surrounded it as the alien weapons continued their assault. "Go." Rodriguez stepped out into empty space. The fall began gently. At the edge of the atmosphere, there was hardly any air to push against his body. But as he dropped lower, the air grew thicker and his speed increased. His suit systems activated automatically. The special material began to glow as it absorbed the heat from his rapid passage through the atmosphere. To anyone watching from the ground, he would look like a small meteor. Through his helmet radio, he could hear his team calling out as they followed him into the void. Hayes away. Martinez away. Chen away. One by one, all 12 soldiers committed themselves to the fall. Rodriguez watched his altitude display as the numbers dropped rapidly. 40 kilometers, 30 kilometers, 20 kilometers. The planet grew larger and larger below him. At 15 kilometers altitude, his suit's computer began tracking the fortress shields. On his helmet display, he could see the energy patterns that Dr. Wong had predicted. The chemical changes in the atmosphere were working. Tiny fluctuations appeared in the shield matrix exactly as planned. "Shield gap detected," his computer announced in a calm voice. "Gap will appear in 37 seconds. Rodriguez looked down at the fortress. It was much bigger than it had appeared from space. The twisted metal towers reached up toward him, like grasping claws. He could see the flashes of defensive weapons firing at the alien fleets above. 20 seconds to gap, his computer reported. The other soldiers were spread out behind him in a perfect line. Their experimental suits glowed like falling stars against the dark sky. Rodriguez felt proud of his team. Even facing the impossible, they maintained perfect formation. 10 seconds to gap. Rodriguez could see the shield now. A faint shimmer in the air around the fortress. Energy weapons from the alien fleet struck it continuously, creating ripples of light across its surface. 5 seconds. Rodriguez aimed his body toward a specific point on the shield, trusting his computer's calculations. Completely. Gap opening. Now. For exactly 1.3 seconds, a hole the size of a closet door appeared in the energy barrier. Rodriguez passed through it at over 200 miles per hour. The sensation was like flying through a waterfall made of electricity. He was through. Behind him, 11 more soldiers threaded the same impossible needle. Hayes passed through with half a second to spare. Martinez made it with even less time. One by one, all 12 paratroopers penetrated the most advanced defensive system in the galaxy. Once inside the shield, Rodriguez deployed his parachute. The familiar jerk of the harness told him the chute had opened properly. Around him, 11 other parachutes blossomed in the sky like white flowers. Below them lay the central courtyard of the Devourer Fortress. It was the one place the artificial intelligence had never thought to defend, because nothing should have been able to reach it. Rodriguez looked around at his team as they drifted down toward the metal ground. Well, people, he said through the radio. We are officially inside the most dangerous place in the galaxy. What now, Sergeant Major? Asked Corporal Hayes. Rodriguez checked his equipment one more time. Explosives, weapons, communication gear, and a small device that would be the key to their entire mission. Now we do what humans do best, he replied. We improvise. The 12 paratroopers landed in the fortress courtyard with barely a sound. Their experimental suits had worked perfectly, keeping them invisible to the Devourer sensors during their approach. But that invisibility would not last long. Soon, the artificial intelligence would realize that something was wrong. When that happened, the real battle would begin. Rodriguez gathered his team in the shadow of a twisted metal tower. Around them, the fortress hummed with electronic activity. Somewhere in this maze of metal and machinery was the central computer core that controlled the entire Devourer operation. Phase 1 complete, he whispered into his radio. We are inside the beast. High above, the battle between the alien fleets, and the fortress continued to rage. Neither side knew that 12 human soldiers had just accomplished the impossible. The Galactic Council still thought humans were primitive creatures playing with toys. The Devourer AI still believed its fortress was impregnable. They were both about to learn how wrong they could be. Inside the Devourer fortress, the air tasted like metal and electricity. Sergeant Major Rodriguez led his team through corridors that seemed to pulse with artificial life. The walls were covered in strange patterns that hurt to look at directly. Stay quiet, Rodriguez whispered into his radio. The AI does not know we are here yet, but that will change soon. The 12 soldiers moved like ghosts through the twisted passageways. Their mission was not to fight every machine they found. That would be suicide. Instead, they had to reach the central computer core before the fortress realized it had been invaded. Corporal Hayes pointed to a junction ahead where 3 corridors met. Which way, Sergeant Major? Rodriguez checked the map on his helmet display. Dr. Kim had studied the fortress structure for weeks using data from alien reconnaissance missions. The central core should be directly below them, deep in the heart of the mountain. Down, he said. Always down. They found a maintenance shaft that led to the lower levels. One by one, the soldiers dropped into the darkness below. The shaft was barely wide enough for a human, which meant the Devourer machines had never expected anyone to use it. As they descended, Rodriguez could hear the battle raging above them. The alien fleets were still attacking the fortress shields with everything they had. The Devourers were focused entirely on that external threat. Perfect, Rodriguez thought. Keep looking up while we come from below. They reached the bottom of the shaft and found themselves in a vast chamber filled with machinery. Huge pipes carried coolant through the room. Computer banks lined the walls, their lights blinking in complex patterns. The sound of electronic activity was constant and loud. This looks important, said Private Chen, studying the machines around them. Rodriguez nodded. But not important enough. We need to go deeper. They crossed the chamber carefully, avoiding the mechanical systems that moved back and forth like metal animals. At the far end, they found another passage leading downward. The deeper they went, the stranger the fortress became. The walls began to show more organic curves, as if the machines had been growing instead of building. Strange symbols appeared on every surface, pulsing with soft light. Sergeant Major, whispered Corporal Martinez. I think we are getting close to something big. Rodriguez felt it too. The air itself seemed to vibrate with power. Somewhere ahead was the source of all the fortress's strength. They rounded a corner and stopped. Before them stretched a corridor unlike anything they had seen. The walls were smooth and curved, made of some material that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. At the end of the corridor, a bright light beckoned. That has to be it, Rodriguez said. The central core. But as they started down the corridor, alarms began to sound throughout the fortress. Red lights flashed, and a mechanical voice spoke in a language none of them understood. So much for stealth, said Corporal Hayes. Rodriguez heard the sound of metal feet running through the passages behind them. The Devourer AI had finally realized that intruders were inside its stronghold. Move fast, he ordered. We need to reach the core before they can organize a defense. The 12 soldiers ran down the corridor as mechanical sounds grew louder. Behind them, robot voices echoed through the passages, coordinating a response to the invasion. They burst through an opening at the end of the corridor and found themselves in the most incredible room any of them had ever seen. The central core chamber was huge, with walls that curved up and up until they disappeared in darkness above. In the center of the room stood a pillar of pure light that stretched from floor to ceiling. The main computer, Rodriguez breathed. But they were not alone in the chamber. As they watched, openings appeared in the walls, and Devourer combat machines began to emerge. These were not the simple maintenance robots they had avoided earlier. These were war machines, built for one purpose: destroying enemies. The robots were shaped like metal spiders, but as big as cars. Their legs moved with perfect coordination, and weapon systems covered their bodies. Red lights glowed where eyes might be on a living creature. 12 soldiers against an army of killer robots, said Private Chen. I have had better odds. Maybe, Rodriguez replied, pulling out his equipment pack. But they are making one big mistake. What is that, Sergeant Major? Rodriguez smiled as he removed a small device from his pack. It looked almost toy-like compared to the advanced technology surrounding them. They think we came here to fight them. The Devourer machines advanced across the chamber floor, their metal feet clicking against the smooth surface. Weapons began to charge with ominous humming sounds. Rodriguez activated the small device and held it high above his head. It began to broadcast a signal on all frequencies, cutting through the fortress's communication systems. Attention, Galactic Council, Rodriguez announced, his voice being transmitted to every ship in the fleet above. This is Sergeant Major Rodriguez of the Human 82nd Orbital Division. We are currently standing in the central computer core of the Devourer Fortress. The advancing machine stopped suddenly, as if confused by his words. Rodriguez continued his broadcast. We want to make something very clear to everyone listening. This device in my hand is not a weapon. It is a transmitter. But it could have been anything we wanted it to be. He looked directly at the nearest combat machine. We got 12 human soldiers inside your impregnable fortress using parachutes and basic chemistry. We walked through your defenses like they were not even there. The chamber fell silent except for the humming of the central core. If we had wanted to bring a nuclear bomb, we could have done that just as easily, Rodriguez said. If we had wanted to bring a virus to destroy your computer systems, we could have done that too. He paused to let that information sink in. But we did not come here to destroy you. We came here to deliver a message. The Devourer AI spoke for the first time, its voice coming from speakers throughout the chamber. What message? Rodriguez smiled. The message is simple. Humans do not fight the way you expect. We do not use the most advanced weapons or the biggest ships. We use whatever works. He gestured to his team, who stood ready with their simple weapons facing machines that could have been built to conquer galaxies. You built defenses against every advanced civilization in the Council, but you never considered that sometimes. The most dangerous enemy is the one you think is harmless. Above them, the battle had stopped. The alien fleets held their positions, waiting to see what would happen next. You studied energy weapons, so we used chemical explosives, Rodriguez continued. You prepared for advanced ships, so we fell from the sky with cloth parachutes. You expected sophisticated tactics, so we used the simplest plan possible. The AI was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice had changed. It sounded almost uncertain. You have proven your point, humans. What do you want? Rodriguez lowered the transmitter but kept it active so everyone could hear his words. We want you to stop this war. The Council is not your enemy, and neither are we. But if you continue to fight, we will have to come back. And next time, added Corporal Hayes, we might not be so friendly. The AI processed this information for several seconds. The combat machines in the chamber remained motionless, waiting for orders. Finally, the AI spoke again. You are correct. If 12 primitive soldiers with parachutes can penetrate our defenses, then our position is not as strong as we calculated. Rodriguez nodded. Sometimes the best defense is knowing when to stop fighting. "We accept your terms," the AI announced. "The Devourer forces will withdraw from this system. We offer our surrender to the Galactic Council." Above the fortress, the energy shields began to power down for the first time in 3 years. The twisted towers stopped their defensive fire. Throughout the chamber, the combat machines backed away from the human soldiers. Rodriguez activated his transmitter one more time. "Commander Chen, this is Rodriguez. Mission accomplished. The fortress is surrendering." Chen's voice came back filled with pride and amazement. "Outstanding work, Sergeant Major. All units, stand down. The battle is over." In the Council command ship, Admiral Kethavar stared at his display screens in complete silence. Around him, other alien officers tried to understand what they had just witnessed. 12 humans, he said quietly. 12 humans with parachutes just accomplished what our entire fleet could not. On the surface of Kepler 442b, Rodriguez and his team walked out of the Devourer fortress carrying the AI's surrender codes. The twisted metal towers were already beginning to retract into the mountain. As they emerged into sunlight, Rodriguez looked up at the alien ships hovering overhead. He could imagine the conversations happening in those command centers right now. "Sergeant Major," said Private Chen, "do you think they will ever laugh at human paratroopers again?" Rodriguez adjusted his parachute pack and smiled. "Chen, I think we just changed how the entire galaxy thinks about humans." Above them, the alien fleets began to withdraw. The war was over, and humanity had won it not with superior technology, but with superior thinking. The age of humans in galactic affairs had begun with 12 soldiers, some parachutes, and the simple understanding that sometimes the best way to win is to do what nobody expects. In the council chambers, the laughter had stopped. In its place was something far more valuable: respect. 48 hours before the council attack, the human ship Ghost Protocol moved through space like a shadow. It was the most advanced stealth vessel in the human fleet, but compared to alien technology, it looked like an old fishing boat next to a luxury cruise ship. Captain Lisa Park sat in the pilot's seat watching her instruments carefully. The Ghost Protocol was heading toward the edge of the Kepler 442b system, far from where the main battle would happen. To anyone watching, it looked like the humans were running away. "Are you sure this will work?" asked Dr. James Wong, the ship's science officer. He looked nervous as he checked his equipment for the 10th time. "Nothing about this plan is sure," Captain Park replied. "But Commander Chen is right about one thing. If we try to fight the Devourers the same way the aliens did, we will lose." The Ghost Protocol reached its position at the very edge of the planet's atmosphere. From here, the Devourer fortress looked like a tiny metal dot on the surface below. But Dr. Wong's instruments could still read the energy patterns coming from the enemy shields. "Beginning atmospheric analysis," Dr. Wong announced. He pressed several buttons and the ship released dozens of small probes. To any observer, they looked like simple weather balloons. "What exactly are we looking for?" asked Lieutenant Torres, the ship's engineer. Dr. Wong pulled up a chart on his screen. The Devourer shields work by creating an energy field that covers the entire fortress. Think of it like a soap bubble, but made of power instead of soap. "And bubbles can be popped," Torres said. "Not popped exactly," Dr. Wong replied. "But every energy field has to interact with the environment around it. The shields have to let some things through or the fortress would be completely cut off from the planet." Captain Park listened while keeping her eyes on the navigation display. "What kind of things?" "Air, for one," Dr. Wong explained. "The machines inside need to cool down, so they have to exchange hot air for cool air. They also need to let through natural weather patterns, or the energy buildup would create permanent storms around the fortress." On his screen, numbers and graphs began to appear as the probe sent back data. Dr. Wong studied the information carefully. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a pattern of lines on his display. "The shield energy fluctuates based on atmospheric pressure and chemical composition." Lieutenant Torres moved closer to see the screen. "What does that mean in simple terms?" "It means the shields get stronger or weaker depending on what is in the air around them," Dr. Wong replied. "Different gases make the energy field behave differently." Captain Park began to understand. "So if we change what is in the air, We might be able to change how the shields work, Dr. Wong finished. The Devourers designed their defenses to handle every known weapon, but I do not think they planned for someone to change the air itself. Over the next 6 hours, the Ghost Protocol quietly released a series of atmospheric processors into the planet's upper atmosphere. The devices looked like ordinary weather monitoring equipment. They drifted down toward the planet on small parachutes, taking readings and transmitting data, but they were doing more than just monitoring. Each processor contained chemicals that would slowly mix with the air around the fortress. The changes were so small that even the most sensitive instruments would see them as natural variations in weather patterns. How long until the atmospheric changes take effect? Captain Park asked. Dr. Wong checked his calculations. The chemicals need to spread through the air currents around the fortress. I estimate 18 hours for the changes to reach the right levels. While Dr. Wong worked on changing the planet's air, another part of the human plan was taking shape aboard the ship Intrepid. In the cargo bay, 12 soldiers prepared for a mission that would have seemed impossible to any sane person. Sergeant Major Jackson Rodriguez had been jumping out of aircraft for 20 years. He had dropped into jungles, deserts, frozen wastelands, and burning cities, but he had never attempted anything like this. "Let me make sure I understand the plan," he said to the other soldiers gathered around him. "We are going to jump out of a spacecraft at the edge of space, fall through an energy shield that stops planetary weapons, and land inside the most defended fortress in the galaxy." "That is the plan, Sergeant Major," replied Corporal Jennifer Hayes. She was one of the youngest soldiers in the unit, but she had volunteered without hesitation. "And we are doing this wearing experimental suits that have never been tested in actual combat," added Private Michael Chen, no relation to the commander. "Also correct," Rodriguez said. He looked at the strange equipment laid out on tables around the cargo bay. The experimental suits looked nothing like normal paratrooper gear. They were made of a special material that could withstand the heat of falling through atmosphere at extremely high speeds. Built-in systems would provide air and regulate temperature during the long fall from space. "The suits will make us invisible to most sensors," explained Dr. Sarah Kim, the scientist who had designed them. "They absorb heat instead of reflecting it, so thermal sensors cannot see us. They also scatter radar waves in random directions." "What about the shields themselves?" asked Corporal Martinez. Dr. Kim pulled up a holographic display showing the fortress and its protective barriers. "This is where Dr. Wong's atmospheric changes come in. The chemical alterations will cause tiny fluctuations in the shield energy matrix." She pointed to specific spots on the display. "For exactly 1.3 seconds every 12 minutes, gaps will appear in the barrier. The gaps are too small for ships or missiles, but just large enough for a human-sized object, moving at the right speed and angle." Rodriguez studied the hologram carefully. "How small are we talking about?" "About the size of a closet door," Dr. Kim replied. "And you will be moving at terminal velocity when you go through it." The soldiers looked at each other. Terminal velocity meant falling as fast as gravity would pull them, with no parachute to slow them down. "This gets better and better," muttered Private Chen. "How do we slow down once we are through the shield?" asked Corporal Hayes. Dr. Kim smiled. "That is the beautiful part. Once you are inside the shield, you can deploy your parachutes normally. The same barrier that keeps weapons out will keep the fortress sensors from detecting you until it is too late." Rodriguez walked over to one of the experimental suits and picked it up. The material felt strange in his hands, almost like it was alive. "Let me get this straight," he said. "We jump from the edge of space, fall for 10 minutes at maximum speed, thread the needle through a gap the size of a door that only stays open for 1 second, then land inside the most dangerous place in the galaxy with just 12 people and whatever equipment we can carry. You forgot the part where we have to do it without the Fortress AI realizing we are there until we are already inside," added Dr. Kim. Rodriguez looked around at his soldiers. Each one met his eyes and nodded. They all knew the mission was insane. They all knew the chances of success were tiny, but they also knew that if anyone could make it work, it would be human paratroopers. "When do we go?" asked Corporal Martinez. "The atmospheric changes will be ready in 16 hours, Dr. Kim replied. "The Council attack begins in 18 hours. You will jump during the confusion of the main battle. Rodriguez set down the experimental suit and looked at his team. 16 hours to practice the most complicated jump in military history. Any questions? Private Chen raised his hand. Sergeant Major, what happens if we miss the gap in the shields? Rodriguez's expression did not change. Then we become very small craters on the fortress roof. And if we make it through but land in the wrong place? Then we spend our last few minutes fighting the most advanced war machines ever built. Corporal Hayes spoke up. And if everything goes according to plan? Rodriguez smiled for the first time since hearing about the mission. Then we show the galaxy that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. He picked up his experimental suit again. Gear up, people. We have work to do. As the soldiers began preparing their equipment, none of them noticed that their conversation was being monitored by alien intelligence services. But the listeners assumed the humans were just talking about another hopeless reconnaissance mission. After all, what could 12 primitive soldiers with parachutes possibly accomplish against the Devourer Fortress?